How do you know her?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, everyone? What's up? Welcome to Simulation. I'm your host, Alan Saakyan, and we're sitting down with David Savage today. What's up?
What's up, Alan?
Thanks for coming on to the show.
Good to be here.
Really appreciate it. I was just at your event last night.
You were.
And it was so fun. You were doing an event about being an empath, and you were teaching us about being an empath. You were teaching us about nuance in the body, energy field. We went pretty deep. You did a reading live and like narrated it. And we'll go through one of those today as well. So like you've been doing this like 10 years now. Like 8 years.
Well, it depends what you mean by this. I've been teaching only for like a year maybe. I've been playing with taking people's energy into my body and expressing what it feels like and what it means for maybe 3 years. And then I've been going, something's up. Let me explore for 8 or 9 years.
And that initial moment of something is up, let's talk about that, because I think so many people are kind of at that moment. Yeah. So, okay, so we pretty much understand nothing about energetics. It's very little. We barely understand what happens inside of me and inside of you, how we relate to each other. It's very difficult to understand that, and science hasn't really caught up to that. So when we get that sort of moment of like, you said something and I felt something inside of me. Yeah. So like, how do we end up maybe learning about that more?
Well, I kind of want to go back to the premise of what you just said, which is we don't know much about this stuff. And I guess if by we mean Western folks trying to understand it analytically, then I would agree with you. But if you exclude that small category of people, mostly men and mostly in the last 300 years, who decided for reasons we don't fully understand that if they couldn't explain it, it wasn't real. If we exclude that category of man, that leaves many, many people who do have a really fine understanding of these subtle experiences.
Okay, but we're still talking like probably less than 1 billion people on the planet.
I mean, every child has an understanding of energy. They just haven't articulated it. We just outgrow it because we stop prioritizing things we can't explain, and we over-prioritize things that appear to give us direct results. And so all those subtle experiences become irrelevant if you want to reduce a child or an adult to the value they create.
Okay, so children are born with this aperture that's wide open for signal.
Yes.
And then it's slowly closed over time.
Or we could put it more harshly and say we close it for them.
Yeah. Culture.
Yeah.
Closes it for them.
Culture closes it for them.
And then even though children are born with this, even today, I think maybe let's try and put like an amount on this, because this is interesting to at least put an amount on. In maybe China and India and some places in the East, it's likely in Southeast Asia, it's likely higher that adults' apertures are open towards signal.
I think that's true.
But are we talking about like 25% of them? You know, because in the West, it's probably much, much less, right?
Well, and I don't know those cultures very well. My experience in India for the 3 weeks that I spent, which is nothing, was that there was a general acceptance of the reality of things that couldn't be explained. And I could feel that in the air. And reincarnation, for instance, there is a fact for a lot of people. It's a trivial fact.
Yeah.
It's not even something to wonder about. In the 2 weeks I went to China, and again, this is totally the opposite of a scientific experiment, and just my 2 weeks there, I did not feel that same openness in China. I felt the same kind of constriction I feel here, in fact, even more so, that they are so obsessed. But this was just the places I went, so this is Beijing, Shanghai, Nanjing. The people are so obsessed with what can be measured, what works, what sells, how to get from here to there.
Sounds like us
that
too.
These subtle, I think they learned that from us, that the subtle experiences are lost unless those experiences can then be packaged.
And in India, there's this general feeling for okayness with not knowing the ethereal, what exists outside of the metaphysical, our metaphysical understanding of the universe.
I can feel people who have a deep connection to India thrashing about watching this, going, who are these two white men to talk about in general terms an entire subcontinent? And to all of you, I say I hear you, and I'm sorry I even walked in that direction.
Likewise, but it's still interesting to at least aim to put a thumb on places in the world that are doing things a way that we can learn from. And that's what we're trying to do here, more than anything. It's not to, make some it's not meant to be malevolent generalizations. These are meant to be more insightful generalizations that can actually hopefully enrich us. So for both areas of people across the world that can maybe tap in a little bit more, as well as children that are born into the world that tap in a little more, maybe give us a bit of what have been some of these really important takeaways for the aperture being open, how to keep the aperture open.
Well, the reason the aperture is closed is because it's not safe, because there's not much space in it. So the goal is not to crack open people's apertures. That could actually be counterproductive, and there are a lot of people who come to me wanting to be kind of blown wide open, and that's not necessarily healthy for them. That might throw them more out of balance. The world that I want to see is a world where we create safe spaces for people to open their apertures, and we could have a culture that encourages that. Right now, let's say you're in your office and your boss is saying something really passive-aggressive. I knew you wouldn't do that on time. And you feel that physically in your body. You can feel the aggression in that language. Is it safe to say, hey, I felt that aggression of what you just said in my body right here, and it hurt? He's more often than not, he's going to go, what the hell are you talking about? He's going to dismiss you. You're going to be cuckoo. You're off. If you're a woman saying that, you're going to be stereotyped as hyper-emotional. If you're a man saying that, you're sensitive, you're a wuss. What's going on? Suck it up, tough it up. And so there's a good reason why the person in that situation is closed off. It's actually safer. When you're secure, more and more secure in yourself, then you can say, okay, I felt the aggression in that. It hurts because you're less dependent on their reaction. You're more secure in yourself. So how do we create more security in people's own inner experience? How do we create safe spaces for people to express what's really going on, or even to be accepting of what is really going on internally, even if they don't express it? And how do we create a culture that allows for that?
So it has to do with safety.
It has to do with safety.
Yeah, aperture remaining open has to do with safety.
100%.
Okay, so what I feel from my boss in that situation, or from anyone that I'm encountering in an interpersonal connection, it's almost certainly that culture is making the space unsafe because I can't express how I feel without being over hyperly emotional female or a male that's a wuss.
Seen as such,
seen as such.
And it's also there is a space, there is a level of awareness one can reach where one can say to oneself, I'm having this experience, it's intense and unpleasant. This experience is okay. I'm here for myself, and I'm not going to express it to the person in front of me. Yeah. That is possible, but that is tightrope walking for a lot of people, and it's not cool for me to say, just because I can do it, you should be able to do it. Actually, the first step to being able to get to that place, in my experience, is actually to express it, even in messy ways. Oh, I really don't like that, and you're going to create a mess.
Yeah.
So unless you're secure in that, it really might not actually be so safe to open up. Things are changing. More and more people are saying, well, we need this. We need to tune up our humanity. I mean, we're in San Francisco right now, and every third conversation is about how to use technology to enhance our humanity. which I like that conversation. I like taking part in that conversation, but it sort of skips the obvious conversation, which is how do we tap into our existing humanity that's already so incredible and underutilized. Yeah. We don't need technology, we need space. And like yesterday, we had people put the cell phones away and literally like spend half an hour tuning into the experience of another person. And I would be surprised if there wasn't at least a few people whose minds were blown by the subtle experiences they were able to have of another person's.
Mine was.
Yeah, another. Yeah. So that's all we need. In fact, it took putting the cell phones away, getting into a quiet space, having a container for it, having a guide saying this is okay, and then trusting that I can take you into that space and take you out of that space. And in that, wow, your humanity is already enhanced.
Yeah. So technology augments humanity, great. What is actually within humanity in the first place that we can tap into and better understand?
Yeah.
And like you said, you made this space for us yesterday, and it was great having all of the devices put away, off, and just really far away. Nothing was being, no communication to satellites or radio wave towers at all. That was fantastic. And then there was also you brought us into the space through a grounding exercise as well. And I think maybe we unpack this a little bit, because there was something else that I wanted to talk about. And if I remember, I'll come back to it. Maybe that means we'll link up with it later. With you grounding us into the space, there was this connection to Earth. I thought that was really interesting. There was also these moments of like wiping away. Tell us about this.
Let's see. Well, when we started yesterday, I had people put their feet on the grounds and then imagine everything in their body from the top of their head all the way down that wasn't theirs, and then releasing it down through their body and into the center of the earth and out through, it goes out through the heels or through the bottom of the feet. And there's no theory behind this. This is simply what I do every single morning to stay within my own field as much as possible. We had a room full of sensitive people, and those people inevitably, including me, are bringing stuff into that space that isn't theirs. And it mucks up the signal. So I wanted us to let go of that stuff, so when we tuned into the other, we were clearer about what's ours, what's theirs, and what isn't even either one of ours. And it is also grounding because you're connecting to the earth. Then the shaking off is much more about releasing. It's just like animals do this on their own. If you pick up energy and you want to let it go, you shake. Sorry about the sound, mistake that might have made. So that's simple as that. It's instinctual, you know. We've lost many of our instincts, but shaking your body when you picked up stuff is...
Shake it off, shake it off.
Ooh, yeah, shake exactly. It's
and
pretty
then
basic.
there's those, the dogs do the whole, like, from the tail all the way to the head.
Yeah.
That long shake, not just to, to dry off, but also to just
release energy.
Release energy. There's a good amount of animals that do that type of
I would be surprised if every animal didn't do that. I think it's probably universal.
Yeah, except humans, because we get up here and then we're stuck here.
Well, we somehow came into the delusion, and again, this is the well-intentioned mistake of white men in the last 300 or 400 years, who came into the delusion that we had to solve everything with our minds. And we've been trapped in that delusion ever since. And ironically, in the great irony of language, we called this the Enlightenment, when it could not have been more unenlightened to think that you could just figure stuff out with your head. And everybody else knows that that's absurd. In defense of the Enlightenment, it was fighting against an even more inane thought structure, which was, you just all hail the Catholic Church or something. So, okay, that's stupid, I accept. So now we're going to think for ourselves, but we forgot the embodied experience. And now we're getting back to it.
I think it was almost necessary for us to go through this enlightenment of realizing that we can leverage our brains for such amazing feats of technology and engineering. And now we're swinging in the other way, which is like, wait, what about all the emotions? What about the feelings? What about the energy? And then now those two things, as we swing back in that direction and then end up combining in the future, it's just going to be...
Yeah. I agree with that. I like that story, but it's going to take this is a strong word, the subjugation of the analytical, male, technology-driven mind to the unpredictable, feminine, flowing, spectacular unfolding that is possible if we tap into our emotions. And we've done it completely the opposite way. So it's going to take a lot for tech-driven, analytical men and tech-driven analytical women who are embodying their masculine to release the grip on their overarching thesis, which is we're going to figure this out with the mind, and to allow and eventually bow before the deeper reality that we're not going to figure out shit with our minds, and that our minds are there in service of this deeper, unpredictable, messy, embodied truth. And even as I say that, you can feel like this subtle vibration in the air, right? Like things shift. It's this, okay, that's it. That's where it's at. You can feel it.
To me, I felt a whoa, like an uh-oh. Like,
uh-oh. Yeah.
Because I think maybe that uh-oh vibrates quite deeply through the San Francisco technology sector. There's a lot of male and females here that are embodying their logic and their mind, and that
nothing wrong with that.
It's advancing us in many ways. It's solving a lot of problems related to our health, related to our communication, but it's also harming us in communication in some way, and in health. But I want to say that I think the way that you placed it was maybe a little bit heavier on the feminine and the energy.
Yes.
Is that?
That's on purpose. Yeah.
The mind will combine with that, but it'll be a heavier amount on the feminine energy moving forward.
It's like the healthy masculine energy creates a boundary, makes it safe, and protects. You know, like this is what's cool, this is what's not cool, and I'm going to make sure it's safe here. But then the feminine flows in the direction it needs to flow. And
unpredictable, you said.
It's definitely unpredictable. What happens in our bodies on a moment-to-moment basis is not to be predicted. And the moment you try to predict it, you'll dissociate, you'll lose your connection to your body. So as you tune into that inner experience, there's a truth there that can express itself only if it's safe to do so, and if it's allowed the opportunity to lead. Another way of saying this is that love conquers all. You know, I've been going into corporations and I've been talking to people who lead companies, and the framework is always the same, or almost always the same. I have a problem and I want to figure out how to solve it. And what can you tell me that will help me figure out how to solve it? And there's a perfectly understandable framework, and I'm not saying that framework is bad always, but the deeper problems don't resolve themselves within that framework. I would reframe it and go, there's an experience happening here. How can I fully embody it or experience it and allow the truth of it to emerge through me or through us? It looks a lot more like inspiration or aha or oh wow or ooh, oh my God, than it does look like, okay, I cracked this code.
So moment to moment being okay with not knowing gives us divinity, gives us power within us, gives us okayness.
Yeah.
It gives us that unpredictability, that feminine energy. But then so then maybe the masculine energy was a little bit more like the boundary that you were talking about. So you set up some boundaries yesterday. I thought this was interesting. both being a drop of water as well as being in the ocean at the same time. So we're all drops of water, but we're all in the ocean together. So when can the drop of water put up a boundary so that way all of the energy from the ocean is not coming in to the water, but also when can the drop of water open up the boundary and let the ocean come to it?
Practice.
And what does that look like in practice as well? Give us a good example of that.
Well, I think empaths, people who feel other people's feelings, are by definition more open to the experiences of others in their own body. And most of us have had a lot of trouble setting up boundaries.
Yeah.
So it looks like two things. One is setting up actual physical boundaries in spaces, meaning this conversation is causing me a lot of anxiety. It's not even my anxiety. You're anxious. I'm taking it on. I am now removing myself from this conversation. That's a very healthy thing to do for an empath.
Yeah.
It's also very difficult because part of being an empath is the compulsion to help or to make sure the other person is okay, and they don't want to hurt the person by rejecting them. So for the empath, so much of working through boundaries is a function of learning to be okay with hurting people. The other half is energetic boundaries. And that's like, I can do it now, and for those of you who can see cool stuff by looking, I'm imagining a force field or a field protecting me. And it's harder to get through with other people's energy into that field. And now I'm going to drop it, and I feel much more vulnerable. That field won't help you in deep relationships. Do not trick yourself into thinking that if you just imagine a force field, somehow your whole relationship with your mother will be transformed. The unconscious need to connect with the mother is way greater than the conscious ability to project an imaginary force field around your body. So, but it is a good trick in interactions, like day-to-day interactions. And then the ultimate boundary, the apex of boundary setting, is self-awareness, which maybe isn't technically a boundary, but the more I become aware of what's happening in my body, subtly and moment to moment, and how other people's energies are affecting mine, the more I'm comfortable with those experiences, and the less I need to block them out, and I can allow it just to flow through me. And that the only way to get there is by the subtle and rigorous work of tuning into your own physiological experience, moment to moment, and or doing really deep healing work. Because as you tune into your body, you're going to start resisting. Most people will start having resistance. I don't want to experience that. Okay, well, what is that resistance? Why don't you want to experience that? And if you follow that path of resistance, it will lead you toward real pain. And as you process that pain, you'll open up more and more stuff will be able to come through you.
So self-awareness will help us not need to set up these boundaries.
But don't take that to mean that, I'm going to stop setting up boundaries and cultivate self-awareness. Now you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Set up boundaries until and unless you no longer need them.
Yeah, yeah. And so self-awareness can be described as understanding how you are being impacted at its smallest, smallest,
or the
finest
loudest,
level, or loudest levels.
Like, obvious example, you sit in a movie theater, somebody sits next to you, you never met him before, and you start feeling all this anxiety, and then you look over and they're really anxious. Just becoming aware of that experience empowers you.
Yeah, yeah.
And now instead of a problem, wow, you went to go see a movie and you just learned that you're sensitive to the experiences of the people next to you. That's a revelation.
That's a good one. And then I think you made one similar to that last night, just like someone, a friend that you're meeting up with, bringing their like teenage daughter with them, and the daughter is like, or even like younger even kid is like running around and like all giddy and like excited, and you're like, wow, why do I feel so giddy and excited? It's like, that's coming from there, and that's not me. But yeah, being aware of that is so interesting. And that can help us a lot with everything that's going on in our lives. I think it especially can be helpful in relationships, both professional business relationships and also with our moms, with our lovers, with our family, and even with the world in general, just being more tuned in. There were so many things that we touched on. I know we still want to do our demo and our reading, and maybe we talk about this a bit, because we did a good chunk on the sensitive man. We did a good chunk on that. It's going to be an interesting transition in the next couple of decades. What about the idea of empathy versus intuition?
They're super connected for me. At the edge of empathy is the surrender of the self for another person's experience. So when I tune into somebody, I give over my body to the experience they're having as best as I can. And the word surrender feels apt. I'm surrendering to it. It's a feminine quality that I'm embodying. And as I'm in that place of surrender to another person's experience, I'm getting all sorts of information. I'm getting information that could be measured very easily and scientifically, like anxiety levels. I'll bet you that my anxiety is rising with their anxiety in ways that could be demonstrably measured. And for scientists watching at home, please help me figure out how to do that. I'm eager for it. But it doesn't stop there. I also, and here's where I start crossing a threshold in our culture, but not one in my own body. I start hearing things. I start seeing things. I start hearing other people's voices. I can occasionally have a real 360 multi-sensory experience of what it's like to be another person. Past, present, future, all visions of their childhood. Future not so much, but past and present, all visions of their childhood. I'll see people in their lives. I'll hear thoughts in their heads sometimes. Most of the time I'm in my body having a physiological experience of what it's like to be them, but sometimes shit just comes through that is inexplicable, and I surrender to it. So it's like, where's that line between empathy and intuition? I think that there is none. And I would draw further. It's like empathy, intuition, psychic phenomena. This is a blur.
Yeah. And then what does it look like to have my energy versus your energy, and then have you be able to tap into someone's childhood?
Well, this is me. I feel very me right now. I'm centered in myself. And I can just tune into what it's like to be you. And I feel, just right now, a little disoriented, truthfully. I'm trying to hold it down, but it's hard, and I feel a little floaty. And that's what I feel like as I tune into your energy. I think there was a switch in your vibe when we started talking about the masculine and feminine, and I said that the masculine needs to learn to subjugate itself to the unpredictable feminine. That's a revolutionary statement that, when it's spoken by an articulate man, is hard to stomach for other articulate men.
Yeah, it's totally true. I think there's a lot of humility that has to shine through the lens.
Can't be up to us anymore.
Yeah.
We've taken this, I don't know if we've driven the bus off the cliff yet, but we're certainly driving off the cliff, and all we know how to do is take measurements of our speed and direction, and calculate that we're screwed. And that's the perfect time, in a spiritual sense, to surrender. And what is it do you surrender to? You surrender to what is the embodied truth of the moment as it unfolds. And that can't be decided upon. That could only be surrendered to. So this idea, I felt, I sensed it disoriented you, created this shift, it ungrounded you, but it also created this kind of floaty feeling. I actually came right into my center. I'm like, yeah, I believe that shit. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm saying it well.
Yeah. And for me, I'm just trying to understand what the exact balance will be that will be required.
No balance.
But Yeah. The other
surrender is not a balance.
The other aspect of it is just surrender to the unpredictability of where the masculine and feminine will intertwine and how much they will engage with each other and where they will sort of permeate throughout civilization, and just be totally okay with where that is, where that's going and what it'll be like, but also want to help guide it in certain.
But even, I want to push against you a little bit, because
yes, please.
There's still in you, and it's very common, this conception that we can figure out how to do this. Like, okay, there's this force and there's this force, and I'm going to figure out where I play in this and how these forces fit together and somehow balance them. And this is not what I believe. And
what is it then?
It's more like what is emerging through me that is my part to do. And you feel me playing in that space when I'm channeling this kind of truth. Okay, he's doing that. That's his role. This is part of his job. It's not because I thought to myself, I'm somebody who's going to speak like this, and how do I train myself to be articulate enough and in tune enough to do that, and I'm going to spend 5 years doing that. This is not how I've approached this. This is more like, okay, I've gone through enough of my own garbage that there's now this space, and from this space is emerging this stuff, these words, these concepts, these ideas, this sensitivity, this ability to teach, and I'm going with it. Now I have to invoke the masculine to be like, this is the line, don't screw with that. I do have goals sometimes. I want to achieve this with that, for sure. But the underlying flow is in charge, and the masculine part of me is just using a machete to clear the path. And
the feminine's planting flowers along the way on the path.
No, the feminine is fierce now. The feminine is fierce. The
feminine has the machete too?
No, the feminine does not have a machete.
What is it like?
It's like Shakti. It's the. You ever walk into a room and encounter a goddess and go, oh, that's what we're talking about. It's forceful, it's powerful. What it isn't is analytical and clear-eyed and like trying to figure things out really clearly.
It's Beyonce. Sasha Fierce. Sasha Fierce. No?
I don't know who Sasha Fierce is.
That's her alter ego. That's Beyonce's alter ego, Sasha Fierce.
Sasha Fierce.
Yeah, so yes, no, it's not about balance. It is ultimately about balance, but the balance comes on the other side of surrender. It does not come by trying to figure out the balance. We're talking about...
It comes from surrender, yeah, okay. So the analytical mind trying to figure out the balance isn't right, but the one that's...
not going to work anyway.
It's one that surrenders to whatever the balance ends up being.
Yeah, there you have it.
Okay, so now let's revisit that couple minute ago sentence. So let's say, okay, the surrendered feeling of whatever the balance ends up being of civilization, whatever we end up doing with that, with the masculine and feminine, amazing. At the same time, there's got to be a little bit of egoic play as well with trying to set goals and manifest goals.
That's part of it. That's one of the things we're doing. And there's nothing wrong in theory with setting goals, but there's a lot wrong in practice. God save us from a bunch of white men getting together in a room and plotting a course for the future. This has not gone historically well. This is a real problem. And how many rooms of men are getting together going, I'm going to solve this, but they're not even connected to their heart. They haven't had a feeling in 10 years. And so what is the this they're solving for? The first this I would want them to solve for, if they were talking to me, would be, how do I get back in here? And what they'll discover is that it really hurts. It really hurts in here. It really hurts in here because a lot of people are hurting. There's a lot of things breaking. And if you're going to be in tune with your own heart, you're going to start feeling a lot of pain.
I think the reason
Alan, why are you laughing? I don't understand why you laugh when he's talking about the pain.
I understand exactly why he's laughing.
Yeah, he understands why.
Okay.
And I think I'll explain why, and I think you'll understand, Ron. I know you might not be close enough to my energy right now to feel why. I'm laughing because of all of the centuries of what's happened, and just how, like, just running around with like a hammer and like just like shattering what's going on is just really difficult for people to take in. And I mean, it's even difficult for me right now, and like I'm more tuned into the meditation and the feminine and the feeling than a lot of men are, and it's really difficult for me. And that's what I'm feeling with that is now how much more difficult it is for the vast majority then that aren't even tuned in the first place to hear something like this and then be like, oh, how do I do that? Why is that important?
Well, I want to address that then, because how do you do that? First, if the sentence "I'm not in my heart and I don't even know what that's like" really resonates for you, and you're one of those people who goes around thinking about how to solve problems all the time and believing that your ultimate value is in the scale of problem you are solving, then that's a wonderful place to start. And that's where you're at right now, and that's perfectly okay. And then the question becomes, how do I slowly, gently, make my way back into my heart? And the answer to that is going to be different for every person. There's not going to be a one-size-fits-all. And your intuition, even if you're totally disconnected, will show up for you. Once you start asking that question, you'll discover you have one friend who you can be that much more honest with. And he or she will be able to hold your disconnection better than anybody else. It's that person you feel just a little bit more comfortable with on a deep level. And you spend just a little more time with that person. Now you open up a little bit. And then there's these voices that show up. Oh, should I be doing this? Is this right? I don't know. Ooh, can I hold those voices in a way I didn't before? It's any man or anybody, this is not man or woman, this is masculine and feminine we're talking about, but anyone who's shut off the inner life, the emotional life, in order to solve problems, still has within them circulating deep experiences. And those deep experiences will come up if you give them a little space and tell them it's okay. Now, eventually, those deep experiences, if you are disconnected, will overwhelm you, have no doubt. If you're going to go all the way, and that is, by all the way, I mean out of your analytical mind and fully into your body and into your heart, you will be overwhelmed. You will be torn asunder at some point. And right before you're torn asunder, I hope that you have the maturity to surrender the keys. You're like, okay, I can't drive this bus anymore. I need to go work on myself. It's time.
So one of the easiest ways is to find people around you that you can go deeper with.
That's great. Yeah, fine.
Mm-hmm. And then when you do,
keep going. It's like there's a little strand. Every one of us has a little strand that connects us back to our heart. And it might not be introspection. It might just be these little rays of light. Like, okay, I see something. This feels good. This feels new. This feels fresh. I'm going to go into it. And then you keep following that. It's not going to be a straightforward path, and if you try to map it out, you're going to fail. It's by definition going to snake and get weird and interesting and unpredictable. So it's going to challenge your sense of certainty, your sense of clarity, your need for control, your need to understand.
Yep. And
slowly, or maybe sometimes suddenly, you can let go of those things. And the rewards are incredible. You know, I'm all for purpose, but I'm not so much for people sitting around going, I'm going to figure out my purpose and do it. That tends to be an unsustainable thrusting of energy out and then trying to hold it when it's there. It creates a lot of shame and guilt, and how can I live my purpose? The opposite approach, like, okay, I'm lost, I don't know what my purpose is, I'm floating in the ether. That's okay, how can I be where I'm at? Mm-hmm. That's what I advocate. And the more you are where you're at, the more you're on your way back home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Deep stuff.
Yeah, to me, the being okay with not knowing what your purpose is okay with being uncertain, and that feels like, as long as there's some sort of like a you're moving forward still with that okayness rather than digressing, then...
Eventually, though, you could even dump that model. What if you're not moving forward? What if you're irrelevant? What if you're aimless? And what if you let go of the map that says I'm making progress, or I'm being productive, or I'm winning? You can feel the shift that happens. Whoa, it's like a void we're standing over. Well, that void was always there. Can I make friends with it without telling myself that it's good if I make friends with it and bad if I don't?
Okay, hold on. Let me challenge. Because isn't being aimless also a huge concern? We found ourselves as a bunch of monkeys now in control of this rock, and if we're completely aimless, malevolent figures can just come and take control and inflict a lot of suffering.
Well, I don't feel aimless. I'm just saying aimlessness, the acceptance of aimlessness as a path, as a step along the path to surrender, purpose, growth, expansion, and then the full embodiment of your own truth. Aimlessness might be a wonderful step. So a lot of people will come to me and go like, I don't know, I feel so lost, as if that's a problem. And I want to give them a high five.
Totally,
welcome
high five. Welcome to being lost.
Welcome to Lost. You know, it's a great place to be after having believed you were found all those times because you were doing what everyone told you to do.
Yeah. So, it's much better to be lost than it is to be think that you are being purposely driven by what other people are telling you to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm just, and the map that we all have around productivity or achievement or winning or success, I like questioning that map. I do have a map, but it doesn't end with achievement. You know, it ends with collaboration, connection, the full embodiment of our gifts, a world where I can walk out that door and feel like whoever I encounter truly, not in words, truly has my best interest at heart. What would that take?
What would that take? Yeah.
I mean, what I'm talking about, the surrender of the conceptualization of how the world needs to be run for the increased subtle experience of what it's like to be a human moment to moment. And for those of us who are capable of holding other people's experiences, it's on us to show up and say, this is what is true for you as I experience it in you. And I'm going to hold that with you non-judgmentally and ideally with love. Mm-hmm. And for those of us who are not there yet to embody who we are fully, it's incumbent on us to acknowledge that to ourselves and to have the courage to step into being lost and trust that there are people here, and not just people, beautiful forces at work that are there to hold you as you are lost. This is fun to talk about. By the way, this is the first interview I've done like this. This is the first time somebody's dug into this stuff with me. It's a blast. Thank you for letting me go there.
Bless you, David. Seriously. Yeah. We need you. Yeah.
Well,
and
thank you.
And Ron and I are.
Yeah.
We love holding this type of conversation on the show. So.
Yeah, but don't ever forget you talk about all the beautiful help that we get. Just don't ever dismiss the dark villain among us.
Dark villain.
Yeah,
Hi, dark villain among us. You're welcome here too. I have my own dark villain inside me.
Yeah, he hates
I
that.
see him
He's
sometimes. He means really ill.
I hate all this love.
And
I believe it.
I can be with that guy and hang out with him. And for the dark villains within you and the dark villains in the world, let us hold you. And it is on us, the people who've made friends with our internal dark villains, to create a safe space so that you don't have to hide your villain anymore. And you can hang out with us under the tree and eat nice fruit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. See, it's the acknowledgement of the dark villain being a part of each of us individually as well as collectively, and then being okay with the dark villain eating fruit with us under the tree. Yeah.
I mean,
it's also important to let the dark villain be the dark villain and see what you can learn from the dark villain.
Yeah.
As you go forward with love conquers all and love everybody, just good luck with that. Harmonious.
I don't believe in that, actually. I believe in that underlying principle, but I'm not a love junkie. And I don't go out into the world saying, like, if I just love this person enough, all problems will be solved.
So you acknowledge the killer inside. The killer.
Well, you're bringing the killer out. You obviously want us to deal with him. So, hi, killer. The killer that you're bringing forth, I want to create space for it. It's okay. That's the extent to which I'm currently able to love the killer, is just by holding space for that killer. And as I feel my own energy start to wobble with the intensity with which you're bringing it forth, then I go, this is what I can handle right now. And there are other people who can handle more of it than I can. And hopefully that killer that you're bringing up will meet those people who can handle more of it. I can handle a lot, but not everything yet.
Keep up the good work. We're all counting on you.
That was so interesting. It's really cool to see and feel what it's like to have like that. Maybe Ron's more, his realistic feeling of like the darkness and the villain and the killer in the sense brought to you, and you going, whoa, I'm wobbling a bit, and like I'll meet it and I'll see it and I'll feel it, but that's what I can do with it right now. All right, that's our timer.
Okay.
So let's jump into a session.
Okay.
We don't have to follow this exactly.
How long is that?
That's 15, but
Okay,
if we need
we can
more.
do 15.
Okay.
I like that. I like the timer. So, by way of introduction, first of all, would it be okay if I took off my sweater? I'm feeling a little hot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're gonna just go down. Go ahead. You good?
Let's take the mic off and take the sweater off. All right, go ahead and take it off. Take the sweater off.
Good. I'll do it. This energy's a trip, eh?
It's so much fun. It's such a trip.
It's such a trip. Wherever there is, we're going there. It's fun.
Oh, perfect. Okay, it's basically already there. I'll just link you up right here. There we go. All right, let's twist towards each other then.
Yeah. Okay. It doesn't matter how you sit. You can sit however you're comfortable, but you can also sit like me if you like.
Yes.
A little closer.
Yeah. Make it even easier, yeah.
Yeah.
Who are you?
What do you mean?
Who are you?
What makes you say that?
Just very interesting, you know?
Thanks.
Yeah. I have this overwhelming sensation to want to get to know you better.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. I'm David. I'm from LA. Live in New York. Used to direct documentaries and commercials. I started doing intuitive readings, led to this psychic stuff, and then performance art. And then along the way, I had to learn how to handle it. And I am good at it, and good at articulating what's happening. Then there's also this like radical anarchist in me who wants real transformation in this world. Not conceptual transformation, but actual transformation. Mm-hmm. And I'm integrating in my own being those two strands, political and the spiritual, and sharing what I got as clearly as I can, so that it brings it about. Simple. I want kids. I don't have any. I'm single. I'm broke. I like theater. I have a little bit of a throat itch. I have a sister, 2 parents. Broke up with my girlfriend at 5 years in January. Give you a sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So what are we about to do right now?
Are we filming? We good?
Yeah, we're good. What are we?
Oh, we've been filming that whole time?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's good. It's real.
It's real. Real is good.
Now, what are we about to do? What is an empathic reading?
Okay, so What I'm going to do is, in a minute, is open up a space in myself and then invite, you don't have to do anything, I do all the work, invite your energy into my body. And then I'm also going to, at the same time as I'm inviting your energy in, I'm also, in a sense, going into your energy field as well. And with these two channels of information, I surrender my body to the experience I'm having of your experience. And as you'll see in a minute, my body will start to shift into these different contortions or into these different expressions. I'm not consciously shifting my body. My body is shifting automatically, and then I am decoding what I'm experiencing. The words I'm using to describe the experiences I'm having are as good as anybody or my ability to describe subtle experiences with language. I'm pretty articulate and good at it, but nonetheless, I will often, probably always, say this when it could have been that. And what else?
So you're both allowing my energy to come through you, but also your energy to come through me?
It doesn't feel like I'm letting my energy come through you. It's more like some kind of information-seeking aspect of myself is going into you and feeling things out.
And then I'm also
in fact, I'm preventing. I'm not projecting my energy into you. I don't believe that I'm doing that.
So there's two sides of it, though. There's the side that comes in from me to you, and then from you to me.
Yeah,
there's
a part that I'm
Yeah.
traveling to you, and then there's a part that's just receptive.
Okay.
So the purely receptive part takes place in my chest as I experience it. I literally envision in my chest these like my own energy parting ways to allow for this. I also am going to take off my necklace, which I use to protect myself. Everyone always asks, so I will tell you, it's an E-Force Plus. I get paid nothing for advertising for it, and I happen to love it. It's the best protection I've found, E-Force Plus. So, yeah. Any questions before we start, or anything else you think you need to know, or people would want to know?
Yeah, maybe the do nothing. The only thing that I can't do is I can't try and be with your feelings.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you could if you wanted, and I would feel that probably, and then it would just become weird. Some tricksters do that stuff to me. They come up and they get a reading, and they're like, "I'm going to jujitsu you," so I start feeling all this weird stuff. But it's the one thing you can do that would muck it up in a sense.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can pretty much think or feel anything you want.
Yeah. You show up to the readings as you are.
Cool.
All right, and then I don't have to do this, but I do it because it makes me more likely to be accurate. Can I have your hands? And then I start by how you're feeling at this very moment. And I feel as you really open. You're still a little bit woozy. I can feel as you what feels like my crown chakra really open. I'm open to more information than I am usually, and it feels nice. I also feel light and a little ungrounded. And that's how I feel you feeling right now. And I think at the end it'll be great if you say what resonated, and especially if you say what didn't resonate, because that's really useful for people to hear. I do not claim to be perfect at all. This is an inexact science.
I will, and also you make it clear to not get feedback as you go.
Correct.
Yep.
My eyes are closed, so I don't like watching, because then I'll start thinking, is this right, is this wrong? And I don't even like, people do it, but I prefer if they didn't go uh-huh or yeah, because then I start integrating my need for validation into the reading. Okay, so that's how you are right now. Have your hand again. This is just to help me tune back in. And I'm going to go from how you're feeling right now to what's been going on with you generally beyond this moment. Not in this moment, but what's happening with you generally. And then I get a very different feeling. So the way you're feeling right now is not a normal feeling for you. Normally, there's a couple different things going on. You can see I'm bouncing a little bit. This bounce is excitement. I feel, as you, excited about the things that are happening. I also feel, as you can see with my hands, like I have to be a bit careful. I can't just go headlong into all of my excitement. I have to make sure I parcel out my excitement delicately and carefully. What else is going on? There's really this giddiness in you. I felt this at the event yesterday. When I do readings, I certainly do have access to information that I'm not getting directly within the reading itself. When I do the readings, I like to share what information I'm getting separately from within the reading so that people can see how those two streams of information line up or don't. But this sense of like real giddiness about things was apparent in you when you came to the event yesterday. You were obviously excited to be there, as you said, and now I'm feeling that as a general way you're being in the world. You're being excited, you're being open, and you're wanting to ingest more and more information. I can feel that in you. I also know that in you as somebody who likes interviewing people, asking questions of people. It's like, give me more, give me more. I want to figure it all out. I want all of it. I want to understand everything. I can feel my brain like wanting to just. What else is going on with you? Then there's a relative comfort actually with not knowing. Like, okay, I'm curious. I'll figure this stuff out as it comes. Like, I might not know everything, and that's pretty okay. Let me learn. Let me go here. Curiosity. A really healthy curiosity, which can edge into confusion sometimes, but you don't feel overwhelmed by the confusion. I think I've probably confused you more than most people. What else is going on generally? You seem to be in a really good state, generally. Positive, open to things. There's some joyfulness coming through you. And that's what's been going on with you generally. And now I'm going to go deeper. And there is within you, at a much deeper level, this tension. We touched on it in our conversation earlier, and now I can feel it in my body as I tune into you. It's this. You have a really interesting relationship to control, because on the one hand, you do have this lightness and openness, and you're an explorer, and you're willing to go where things take you. But on the other hand, there is a part of you that's really holding on quite tight and needs to be in control. I go into that. There's a lot of, keeping with our conversation, but now I feel it, there's a lot of determination and willpower in you. You have this lightness, but there is, to quote your partner over there, there's a killer in you too. And it's like, I've got to figure this out. I really have to do this. I really need to show up. What is my purpose? I am doing this. This is very deep stuff in you. I'm going to go even deeper. And the source of that, as I feel it, now I'm tuning into my own heart, mine as David, because I'm about to say something that's intense and I want to be present for it. The source of that need to show up or be strong, of that determination, is fear. And it's not all encompassing. You're not controlled by your fear, but it is a major part of what's holding you a little bit tense. Like this, the determination and hyper-focus originates in fear. But you are more than just determined and hyper-focused. You are also open and playful and adventurous. And so these two central tensions, this exploratory nature and this fearful, controlling nature, coexist. I'm going to spend a little more time in this feeling of fear that's so deep in you. It feels like the kind of fear one would feel in a situation that is out of control, taking place around you, and the only thing you can do in that situation is to really figure out everything that's going on. So I'm having this vision of you as a kid in chaos. The chaos isn't directed at you. You're not the victim of it directly, but it's so chaotic that you can only survive by going into a place where you are taking into account everything. And because of your natural curiosity, who you are anyway, those two things come together and join this natural curiosity with this fearful need to understand everything. To call you a control freak would be unfair, but you are, in some ways like me, an understanding freak. You don't need to control it, but your way of controlling is to make sure you understand it. And once you understand it, you feel safe. Okay. And then I'm going to go past the fear into who you are at your core. And in my experience, everyone, literally everyone that I've ever read has a core essence. And it's beyond the emotional realm. It's who we are as we incarnated in this lifetime, in our nature. And it's like an archetype. And for you, it's very much the adventurer. You can see what I'm doing with my hands. It's, I want more, I want to bring in more experiences, I want to gather and collect experiences, and then I want to share them, which is exactly what you're doing with your life, as I understand it. So you're in tune in that sense. I want to bring in this, bring in that. Maybe collector is a better word than explorer, but the intersection of collector and explorer. So I feel myself as you traveling, having all these crazy and fun and amazing and interesting experiences, bringing them in and integrating them, and then there's this flow. It's not just for you, it's like the flow's out. As I said, language is really inexact here, but I think you get the gist. And I'm not having an experience of language. I'm having an experience in my body, and the language I'm using is not channeled. It's just my best attempt to describe what it is I'm feeling. So it's not perfect. It's inexact. Now, there's a really good chance that something I said didn't resonate or wasn't true. And if that's the case, I would just advise you to let it go. I'd much rather have you let go of these things that I said that don't resonate than hold on to them and try to make them make sense. However, if what I said did resonate, then I would suggest for you that you start in your own way going into that fear. This is not universal advice for those watching at home. Not everyone needs to go into their place of greatest vulnerability. Sometimes actually it's healthy to avoid it. But in your particular case, Alan, as I tune into what would be of service to you, I go straight into that feeling of fear. So, in other words, whatever you're afraid of doesn't have to be super intense. It could be things you're just a little afraid of. It would benefit you in particular, not everyone watching, to walk into that fear. And at first it's going to be really difficult, so you don't have to go into the most intense fears. You can go into just things that make you a little scared. And then, oh, okay, you're going to find that you can handle it. And then there'll be a little more fear, and then it'll pass through you, and then you'll be ready for the next fear. And the more you kind of go into these fears one after another, the more you'll process the underlying experience that is at the cause of those fears, and the lighter you will be. You're already pretty light, but you'll be even lighter and more joyous in your adventurousness and your collection of experiences. And that's my reading. Take your time. Breathing's good too.
The collector.
You collected me.
Collect flow.
Here I am.
Make a log of it so that other people can access it as they need as well.
That's a gift.
And the fear. It's both something that I just want to choke the living shit out of, but also something that I want to be with and like be okay with that fear.
You could try a third one. You could try being not okay with it, not choking the living shit out of it, just being uncomfortable.
Yeah, letting it just make me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Which when I was diving in a bit, I was starting to let it make me feel uncomfortable. Yeah.
And as I say that, I can feel my whole body going, yes. So just, you don't have, it's not all or nothing. That determination that you have that we talked about in the reading, you can use that to put you into places of mild discomfort. But you don't need to go overboard.
Yeah. I like the mild discomfort, actually. I think it's a direct way to grow. Yeah.
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 It's the edge.
It's the edge. And then I like that edge. Sometimes the edge can be a little overwhelming.
Then pull back.
And then pull back. And then...
Fear, I mean, some people need to jump headlong into their most scary things, but I wouldn't advise that as a general principle. There's a lot to be said for somebody very beautiful said to me, face your fears and then recover. Little at a time, come back to yourself.
That's good. Face your fears, then recover.
Yeah. No more, we don't need a world anymore where people are yelling at you to go headlong into your greatest fear and overcome it. This is not good advice.
Like you said, there was that little bit of like the string that you can like slowly pull towards like having an emotional experience with someone, diving deep into what it feels like to connect with them and what they're feeling at the moment. Similar to fear, like walk up to that edge, be with the edge, enjoy the presence, go back, recover, go back to the edge, experience. The collector, the explorer is really interesting. And then the connector as well, collector and connector as well is really interesting. Holding these experiences of collection of wisdom for other people. It was interesting to feel you feeling.
Did you feel anything?
It's like a... I don't know what it's like. I need to do it more to understand it more. Yeah.
Did you feel a subtle kind of
little
mist in you?
Some sort of, yeah.
Yeah, some people do.
It was something, and I also felt that when we were doing our one-on-ones yesterday.
With the person you were paired with?
Totally, because I was the one that was receiving them as well. And so like I received first, then they received me. So there was a total like, that like, I almost envisioned it as a, like you said, a mist. That's part of it, and the other part of it's kind of like this, just like an outline of them as an energetic being itself, and the pulsing and vibrating. So, so tapping into that as well as receiving that. Who's given you a reading?
There's a guy named Paul Selig who did a reading for me years ago that was very similar in style to the one I just did for you. It's on camera, actually. I haven't released the tape, but I have it. Actually, I might have it on my Vimeo page back when I was a professional director. I've gone to so many psychics and intuitives. I like it. I mean, I used to go to 3 or 4 a day. I've done palm readings, tarot readings. I did a tarot reading. I had a tarot reading. I don't do them. Well, I do them, but for fun. But I had a tarot reading just yesterday at the Center SF. I mean, I like it.
Yeah, of course you do.
Yeah. I like it. I got some good advice yesterday from my reading. I feel compelled to say something to the people watching this who are pretty convinced I'm full of shit, or who think that I must have cold read you and then said what I knew to be true in some dramatic way, or that what I'm saying is so generic it could apply to anyone, or that I'm just delusional. I just want to say for those people who believe that, you're more than welcome. Like, I appreciate that you're watching, that you've made it this far. I'm happy to have that be believed, and I will keep showing up, and I hope that you keep showing up with your skepticism. I think we need both.
Yeah, we do. I'm glad that you addressed that. That's an important thing to address.
Yeah. And then I want to say, by way of my competitive side, I have been begging scientists that I meet to help me explain this. Like, everyone, for people who study parapsychology in a real way, like Rupert Sheldrake, who I love. I asked him to help me. To UCLA, I've been working with this neuroscientist there, or neuroscientist PhD. I'm reading about the science of empathy. So I'm like not just willing, but eager to submit myself to serious analytic academic rigorousness, because if I am delusional, I promise you I want to know.
Yeah. And then also the scientific reading that you have coming up on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right. So you'll be strapped into EEG, so will the person that you're reading.
That's
and
the
then
plan.
the neuroscientist from UCLA will be monitoring what's going on.
She'll be giving a talk about what she thinks might be going on.
What she thinks might be going on. And so this is a way for kind of some of the skepticism to get a little bit of objective data.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. So we're totally, open to exploring that and seeing what it ends up being. That'll be really exciting. I'm glad that you addressed that at the end, because I think a lot of the statements can be viewed as like general statements, but also they are like kind of finely tuned to a degree about the person. I want to ask a question about you deciding to go, deeper into what is there, and then you go deeper into what is there, deeper into someone's essence. How do you pick those things? How do you feel those things?
It feels like I'm going like an onion, peeling, or maybe a better analogy is diving deeper and deeper and deeper. The way I'm actually doing it is using my mind to orient. So I'll literally say something like, what else needs to be seen? And then my body will move in such and such a way. Or now I'm going to go deeper. And then I actually just feel like I'm going deeper. There are these strands of energy that I'm following, so I can feel that determination in you, and I have an intuition to track that, and as I track that, I come into this feeling of fear. Then a narrative starts to assemble itself around the relationship between determination and fear, and I share that narrative if it feels true in my own body as I say it. So I'm using resonance in my own body to determine whether or not to share something. Like, this is feeling true. Like, simple way of thinking about it. Mm-hmm. I'm wearing a black shirt. Ooh, I feel constricted as I say it. I don't feel resonant. I'm wearing a white shirt. I feel hollow, clear, because I am wearing a white shirt. Mm-hmm. So I'm using that same thing to tune in to truth.
Can that resonance also be described as flow?
I think so, yeah.
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 Ron, are you interested in taking a seat here? And
No, not at all.
No, not at all. You're like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, I don't want to know anything other than right now, period. I don't want to know who I'm going to kill, who's going to kill me, who I'm going to yell at, scream at to make shit happen. No thanks.
What are your thoughts about what Ron just said?
To absolutely honor his boundaries.
I'm a psychic too, David. I don't share it. I'm better off going forward, not letting people know. Even by saying that, I fail.
Yeah, you just failed.
So,
I'm very interested to hear what other people's thoughts are about, Ron's just straightforwardness with that feeling.
Ron doesn't give a shit, number one, what other fucking people think about Ron's straightforwardness. It doesn't care. It doesn't care.
I think Ron could have the last word on Ron.
Let's we
do
got
it.
we
Yeah,
got
let's wrap it up.
1:15.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's wrap.
All right. So you have some events coming up in SF. Okay, we have the center coming up tomorrow. Okay.
7:30, Center SF. I'll be doing readings, much like what you guys just saw, in front of an audience. I'll be choosing who I read, and then answering questions and doing some basic grounding for people. That's Tuesday. And then Wednesday, I'm doing what we were talking about with a guy named Juana Costa, who'll be putting an EEG on my head and reading it, and then a neuroscientist PhD student, I think she's about to get her PhD, named Courtney Yeager from UCLA, who's flying up to express what she thinks is going on. And yeah, that's what's up.
And then is there anything Thursday, Friday before you leave?
Friday, there's something secret in the works, which I'm excited about, but can't reveal because it's not fully landed yet.
Cool.
And other than that, some chilling, some relaxing.
Some homies.
Some homies.
Yeah. Cool.
And then I fly back to New York probably on Saturday, unless something screams that I should stay.
We will miss you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
I'm excited for when you're back, yeah. And I'm excited to hang out when we're in New York next.
Okay, come say hi.
I will. This has been a blessing. It has. It's been so nice. And I think that what we mentioned at the start with what's going to be happening with this, just being totally okay with the unpredictability of where things are going, but also just like totally being able to feel how this white male masculine energy of mind is slowly being like kind of shifted in a different essence with this feminine feeling.
About time, isn't it?
About time, yeah. It's so interesting how the evolution of humanity and civilization, where it's gone and where it's going, it's just so interesting. It's like the human experiment. So you're amazing. Thank you for joining us, David.
Thank you for having me on.
This has been such a pleasure. Seriously.
Thank you.
We thank everyone for tuning in. If you guys had a good time, please give us a subscribe, comment below your thoughts, give the video a share with other people. Let's get more people thinking about what it feels like to feel someone else's emotion, and actually being able to take time in our lives to be okay with that and be safe with that. So also click on the links in the bio to David's website. Join us on Patreon. Go and create with this information. Go and make something with it. And much love, everyone. Talk to you soon. Peace.